I gotta say that's one of my favourite. I hadn't seen such a gorgeous photograph of Frank ever before. But that really is stunning. And Ken, and this gentleman's name is, what's his name again?
Jimmy Kiernan.
Jimmy Kiernan, there you go. Beautiful photograph. I'm here with the gorgeous Jack Clarke. You've had such a gorgeous body of work. I looked, the YouTube clip will be here as well on this piece. Your work in New York, your work with the Dublin Jewish community. I'm wondering, where did this all start for you as a photographer? Because, you know, you're living in Killincarrig. It wouldn't have been an obvious sort of line of artistic endeavour that photography would catch your eye, but you certainly have the eye for photography. Where did all that come from?
Well, I lived in Australia for a good few years, and I took some photographs and nothing specific, and I came home in '79 for a few years, and I got involved in the Bray Camera Club, and that gave me a real interest in photography, developed my interest. There are a lot of very talented people there, and still are, I believe. It's thriving. Yeah. But I ended up at home for a few years, and I went back to Australia, and I ended up living and working in Canberra in 1986 and 87, and they were building a new federal parliament house in Canberra, and I got a job on the federal parliament house. And I was also joined the Canberra Photographic Society, which was also a very professional photographic society. And I started bringing the camera in because there wasn't a lot of security stuff then. I started bringing the camera in onto the site, and I photographed workers and aspects of the construction because I realised this was probably the most iconic building in Australia since the Opera House. So I had a unique opportunity, and I started photographing all the guys. And then I was 2 years there, and then I had a friend, Brian Calvin, a Dublin fellow, who was a secondary school teacher there, and I was saying how interested I was. I'd love to go back and study photography. He said, I was about 40. Right. He said, you could apply to go to the School of Art at the National University in Canberra as a mature age student. So Brian filled me in on how to do it. I went along, I took along all the photographs I had taken on the construction of the Federal Parliament House, went for an interview and all. I think it was the whole idea, we're bringing art to the workers or something like that. Yeah. So I was accepted to study full-time for 2 years, in the Canberra School of Art.
What year would this have been? Was this back
in the 80s? That would be 1988, 1989. Right. And while I was there, I put together an exhibition of a lot of the photographs I took on the Federal Parliament House construction, and I went to see a man, Jim McKernan. He was an Irishman. He was a senator in the federal government in Western Australia, and Jim gave me a lot of help, and they put on an exhibition in the Federal Parliament House of my work. Wow! It was the second exhibition ever took place there, so it was great. Nice. And then after that, I did some other stuff and all that, and I finished up, and I donated a lot of the stuff to the Federal Parliament House Library. Then the National Library of Australia called me up and said, we'd like to buy some of your work. So they've got some of their work in their collection as well, which is great. You're living in the history of the place, Yeah. Well, I know too that like as I said, you've certainly travelled, but certainly the work has taken you. You've done work all over the world. What I'm obviously fascinated by, and I saw the exhibition in the Burnaby, is your ultimate decision when you were home to sort of make a record of the people in Killincarrig, which. And around Greystones and Kilcool and all that. But was that something that sort of happened organically? Was there a decision made? I think, studying the photography, studying the history of photography at the School of Art in Canberra, and you became aware of all these great photographers and the different projects they carried out, the social role of photography and all that. So I came back initially for a couple of months, and I remember the last week before I went back, I was cycling around the place. I'd been studying photography for 2 years now before this. And I was cycling around the area on my bicycle, and any time I bumped into some local person, I hopped off and sort of started talking to them and took a photograph of them. And that actually ended up the nucleus of the core of that exhibition, which I held in the Burnaby Hotel. But I came home then later on, they expanded that. And I also I undertook a series for 15 years photographing Irish artists in their working space. Wow. And then I got engaged, I got tangled up with the Jewish Museum, the Irish Jewish Museum in Walworth Road in Dublin. And because I'd worked on a kibbutz in Israel as a young guy, it left me with a lifelong interest in Jewish stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So then, and the old guy Raphael Siv, he's gone now, God rest him. He was the curator of the museum, and Raphael gave me a lot of help. And I spent a year photographing Jewish Dubliners, which was just a great experience. I'd meet them on a Sunday, I'd go for a walk with them, and I called it in the footsteps of Leopold Bloom, Portraits from Jewish Dublin. And eventually they put on an exhibition in the James Joyce Centre in North Great Georgia Street.
Beautiful.
Which was nice. And then some of the, what they called the Briscoe family had become quite friendly with Joe and Debbie Briscoe, and their sons, one of the sons was a doctor in Boston, and he was organising an exhibition of the stuff in the Irish Cultural Centre of New England.
Wow.
And then I lost my bloody job and I went back to Australia, so that kiboshed that, you know.
Because you would think, you know, that there's a reputation there and a body of work that would suggest, well, this is a living now. This could be your life. Was that a hard kind of turn to make, that you weren't going to be able to make a living? Or?
When I came back from Australia after I'd studied photography for 2 years, I came back and I started wedding photographic.
Right.
Business, rainbow photographics, and I also started teaching photography initially for a couple of years in the Signal Arts Centre in Bray, and then one of my students, Maureen O'Donnell, a mature age student, a woman in her 60s, she used to come there and she's very enthusiastic about conventional traditional black and white photography, and she went to Stillorgan College to study for a year there, and she rang me up and she said, Jack, there's one of the teachers that left, they're looking for a photography teacher.
Right.
So I rang up Stillorgan College. The next thing there I am standing up in front of this room full of 20, 18-year-olds. My knees are trembling, but I was 10 years there, you know?
Right.
It was great. Then with the recession, because my qualifications were Australian, with the recession, a lot of tenured teachers came back into the profession. Right. And there were a lot of people like me employed on one-year contracts who were let go. So that's what happened there. And then I went back to Australia 6 years ago. Well, I was back there about a month. The house I was in was burgled. I had $2,500 worth of digital camera robbed. And the guy who owned the house was a cheapskate. He wouldn't put it through the insurance, so I never got the camera back. And I haven't taken a picture for 6 years.
That must be a part of you, you know. Obviously,
it was terrible. Yeah, it was a terrible blow. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. But that's the way it was. And what I should have done, of course, is gone out the next day and bought another bloody camera.
But back on the horse straight away, kind of thing. Yes.
Then I got out.
But the only thing I will say, that obviously the talent is there, because you know you're dealing with somebody who can see in a moment, you know, I don't want to get into all that sort of arty-fartiness, but the soul of people, just that sense of who someone is. As we mentioned before, you know, everybody's James Dean. If you capture somebody in their world, in their moment, and I think in the case of the Hurley brothers, they are actually James Dean as far as they're concerned.
But the boys, they're one-offs, as they say.
But you get such beauty in a simple photograph, and also you not only get the person, but you get a world, you know, suggested by where they live and who they are. And
it's very easy to overlook the dignity in ordinary people. You take it for granted because you've known them all your life. With a good black and white photograph can isolate that. And someone looks at it and says, Jesus, there's George Pegman, his brother. I never realised, you know, they were such unique guys. So that's the nice thing about it.
Oh, it's great. Well, it's lightning in a bottle. If in a moment you just capture just somebody, and it can be very casual. It's not like they've just won a prize or they've suddenly, you know, got their hair done. It's just their everyday existence. That's the beauty of them. That's what matters, because that's who they were, and that's who they, you know, would want to be.
Good photography for me. Because I did these particular ones that somebody would be watching, I'd gone along with a camera, tripod and a flash, and I'd set up and you'd have to engage with the people over an hour or maybe 2 hours photographing the thing. But the best photographs work when the person gives you a little something and you give them. It's a two-way exchange. I've gone to photograph people who I knew very well, were very articulate, they had beautiful studios and I'd known them well. They could get up and talk to a crowd of 100 people at the drop of a hat. Yet when I went to photograph them, a mask came down. You know what I mean? Where you could go photograph another guy like George and his brother Jack there, and they just to just open up to you, you know, to give you something.
Well, a photograph is a kiss on the cheek, and sometimes it's a full-on kiss on the lips. If you have that moment of you genuinely just give each other that little bit of intimacy, because you do have to sort of allow the camera in, and it doesn't have to be that you reveal, you know, physical things. You just let yourself relax and be that person, be who you are. But beautiful work. We're going to keep chasing you for. I know you've got a lot of wonderful an archive that's currently kind of just out of your reach, but we will keep chasing you and bugging you, and we'll get people to see some of the.
Well, I got a great response to the show in the Burnaby, and it was great because it wasn't a commercial show. I'd given prints to all the families and all. I wasn't doing this to make money or anything, but we invited all the families along. Like Dennis Byrne helped me. Dennis is a pretty astute guy, you know, when it comes to setting up exhibitions and how to go about it and all that in his own quiet way. And he insisted that I get special invitations made out for the individual families of the people whose portraits were on the wall.
That's perfect, yeah.
And send them in a nice envelope and dignify the whole thing.
Yeah.
So all the families came along.
As a respectful
And a lot
thing.
of other people came too, which was great, you know.
Yeah. Well, I would love to think that when you're ready and that we do like an anniversary exhibition of those photographs, and hopefully you'll get back into doing more, because we are a very beautiful people. You only have to look around here today. Well, there's nobody beautiful here today. But normally there would be a lot of beautiful people.
Except me and you.